What happens when a nation that has been ignored for more than 30 years suddenly becomes a focus of U.S. foreign policy? What if Washington not only recognizes Somaliland, but establishes a military presence at Berbera, controlling one of the world's most strategic maritime choke points? What would that mean for U.S.'s rivalry with China? What would that mean for Somalia's fragile politics? What would that mean for Ethiopia's search for sea access? And most importantly, what would recognition mean for the people of Somaliland, who have built peace and democracy against all odds, yet have never been given their rightful place in the international community? Those questions are no longer hypothetical questions. Just this week, Senator Ted Cruz has urged President Donald Trump to recognize Somaliland. President Trump himself has said, "We are looking into it right now." In the background, negotiations are happening, and the stakes are enormous. In this episode, we will break down first, Senator Ted Cruz's letter and why it matters now. Second, President Donald Trump's remark and what it signals about U.S. foreign policy. Third, the strategic checkboard, why Somaliland is suddenly indispensable. Fourth, the deal on the table, from military access to mineral rights. And finally, the future, what would recognition mean for Somaliland? Tonight, we are looking beyond the headlines and asking, are we on the brink of a historic breakthrough? This is Somaliland 360. I am Abdifatah Qalinly, live and unfiltered. Let's read between the lines. The story begins with a letter. On August 14th, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee on Africa, wrote directly to President Donald J. Trump with a bold demand: recognize Somaliland. Cruz didn't frame this as a charity case. He framed it as a strategy. He said that Somaliland isn't just stable, it's critical for America's security. He pointed to Somaliland's democracy, peaceful elections, and Somaliland's support for U.S. allies like Taiwan, and how Somaliland offered to host U.S. forces on the Red Sea. But here's the real insight. Senator Cruz tied Somaliland's fate to America's national interests. He argued that Somaliland's recognition would strengthen U.S. supply chains, deter China's influence, and secure global shipping lanes. For the first time, Somaliland wasn't just a breakaway region in Washington's eyes. It was a forefront partner in U.S. strategy. Then comes the shocker. When asked about Somaliland's independence, President Donald J. Trump responded, "We are looking into it right now." Simple words, but historic. No U.S. president has ever spoken about Somaliland's recognition so directly. In Hargeisa, the statement was celebrated as validation, proof that decades of resilience have not gone unnoticed. But here's the key. This wasn't just a slip of the tongue. It signaled that Somaliland is on the radar inside the White House. For Mogadishu, it was a warning. For Beijing, it was a red flag. And for Somaliland, it was hope. That recognition might no longer be a dream, but a policy under review. So you might ask yourself, why Somaliland? Why now? The answer lies in geography and geopolitics. Somaliland sits on the Gulf of Aden at the mouth of Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a choke point for nearly 10% of global trade. Whoever asserts influence here holds the leverage over oil, shipping, and military access. Add to this Berbera port and airbase, modernized, strategically positioned, and already attracting investments from the United Arab Emirates and the UK. Now factor in China. Beijing has poured billions into Djibouti, just across the waterways, where it runs its first overseas base. It has pressured Somalia to isolate Somaliland and punish it for supporting Taiwan. It has financed and supplied Somalia's efforts to destabilize Somaliland by instigating clan divisions, exporting terrorist fighters, and waging full-on clan warfare, all in the hopes of collapsing Somaliland's thriving democracy, severing Somaliland and Taiwan's partnership, and gaining full control and dominance over the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So, recognizing Somaliland wouldn't just reward democracy, it will counterbalance China's growing footprint in the Red Sea. That is why Somaliland is suddenly not just relevant, it's indispensable. So, what's actually being discussed between Somaliland and the United States? According to sources, the deal goes far beyond recognition. First, military cooperation. A U.S. presence at Berbera would give the United States unmatched leverage over the Red Sea and Indian Ocean. Second, critical minerals. Somaliland's untapped resources could feed America's defense and tech industries, reducing reliance on China. Third, trade and investment. Formal recognition would open Somaliland to U.S. companies in energy, infrastructure, and agriculture. Fourth, upholding democracy in a region that's leaning further and further to autocracy, a one-party rule like China. Fifth, regional partnership, linking Somaliland with Ethiopia, the United Arab Emirates, and the European Union, aligning global players under America's umbrella. Each one of these moves would transform Somaliland into a linchpin of U.S. strategy in Africa. This isn't just about helping a small democracy, it's about building a partnership that serves both Somaliland's future and America's interests. So let's look ahead. What if America says yes? For Somaliland, recognition would mean legitimacy, an end to the decades-long limbo. It will unlock aid, trade, and global partnerships. For Africa, it will prove that borders can evolve when history, democracy, and stability demand it. Somaliland could become the first newly recognized African nation in decades. For America, recognition of Somaliland would cement an alliance with a rare partner, a democratic, stable nation in a region plagued by instability. For China and Somalia, it would be a strategic defeat, a reminder that democracy can win even in the Horn of Africa. For the world, it will mark a turning point, prove that global politics still has space for justice, recognition, and new beginnings. For 30+ years, Somaliland has survived without recognition, building peace, holding elections, and waiting for the world to notice. Now at last, Washington is paying attention. Senator Ted Cruz has made the case. President Trump has opened the door, and history is etching closer and closer. The question is not whether the US will act. The question is, if it does, how would it change the world? My name is Abdifatah Qalinly. This was a special report by Somaliland 360, live and unfiltered, where we read between the lines. Please share, like, subscribe, and follow. Until next time.